is at the core of every modern business's performance. So, when data loss happens, your business stops. Using Active Backup for Office 365 and Active Backup for G Suite, you can even back up files, mail, and contacts from the cloud. If something is accidentally deleted, employees can go back in time and recover files themselves without IT admin's help. Because the Active Backup Suite comes free with Synology NAS, you can back up as many devices as needed without additional license fees. And with Synology's various hardware options, from 1 terabyte to thousands, you can start small and scale up storage capacity as your business evolves. Active Backup Suite. Centralized data protection made easy.
Look at that. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Magic. Super magic. Well, everyone, welcome Dave Russ from Synology, and I'll hand it over to you and you can share your screen.
Thanks very much. I will start off with a PowerPoint, and just let me know, can you see what I got going on here?
Yes, I can.
All right. So like the video said, and I can't guarantee, that I'm going to have as catchy of a tune playing in the background, but, we're going to talk about complete backup for Microsoft 365 via our Active Backup Suite. And this is license-free data protection. So no licensing fees, no subscription fees, no strings. You buy one of our devices and you're good to go. So I am going to be the speaker today. My name is Dave Russ. I've been with Synology for a bit over 3.5 years now, I think, and I am a senior technical account manager. So I've worked with hundreds of different, actually probably thousands now, of different companies to figure out their hardware and software needs and make sure that we check all of their boxes and that we also fit their budgets. So I want to first talk about kind of a real world example of one of our customers and kind of the challenges that they faced and why they went with Synology. So this was a vocational college. They had 18,000 current students and they had 1,000 faculty that they needed to back up their Microsoft 365 data. They had all this information and you got to find a place to back that up. You got to protect the data that your students and once again faculty are using. So in reality, they needed to back up 30,000 drive accounts, 60,000 email accounts, and 10,000 across 10,000 different sites. And the reason why the discrepancy in those numbers, 30,000 drive accounts, 60,000 email accounts, and only 18,000 students is legal obligations. They needed to retain the student and staff data for multiple years. So they had to have former students backed up as well, all of their data. And they really realized their reliance on M365. Obviously, the collaboration going on in M365 has increased during the pandemic. Everyone's remote, so it just makes sense. Hey, let's go to the cloud. That you can't use as many local resources, or at least it's more convenient to use the Microsoft 365 platform. And they kind of realized that cloud is not a backup, and this is something that is I definitely want you guys to note here. Just because your data is up on M365 doesn't mean that it's backed up. Microsoft is very clear with their customers in their terms of service that they're not going to protect your data. If you and what I mean by that is, let's say someone deletes a file and then the admin goes through and they clear the recycle bin. You've got in some cases you got about 14 days in order to put in a support ticket and get that file back, or else it is gone forever. So it's a big deal. When your data is on M365, it's safe. Of course it's safe. They've got multiple copies of that information, but things happen all the time that might not protect that data. Somebody deletes it. It's only got a limited amount of time on this earth. So what this college did is they took that M365 data and they got a Synology device for a local on-prem backup of all of that M365 data. So this allowed them to satisfy their retention goals. Once again, they were legally required to keep current and former student data. It reduced their IT effort. That's a buzzword, but it's essentially this centralized their backup. It brought it all to one place, and they were able to join the Synology device to their Active Directory. So just join your domain, use the users and groups that you already have set up. Why do you want to have to set that up for every different device that you have? Just join into the domain and you're good. And once again, no software licenses, no subscriptions. They didn't have to pay a cloud service or anything like that to back up this data. You buy the hardware, you buy some hard drives, you're good to go. The software comes with it. So let me dive a little bit deeper into why it's necessary to back up M365 data. This is a frighteningly common question, and basically the reason why cloud is not a backup is Microsoft doesn't take responsibility for your data. They specifically say, hey, we're going to take care of the applications, right? That is our cloud services, and that's our responsibility. But the information and data, as you can see on this matrix, that is up to you. Back up your stuff. Hopefully that is second nature to a lot of you by now. And specifically in their terms of service, it says, we recommend that you regularly back up your content and data that you store on the services or store using third-party apps and services. So that's us. We are the third-party apps and services. Definitely, even if you're not using us, look, I'm not going to be selfish. Even if you're not using Synology, please back up your M365 data. It's very important. Your business could literally go under because you don't have backed up data. So let's talk about 3 different possibilities for why you would need to do this. Of course, there's way more than 3, but accidental deletion is the first one. User error. Anybody who's worked in IT for any amount of time knows that user error is almost always the biggest concern. Let's say somebody deletes a file or they edit a file that they weren't supposed to, and you don't catch it until 30 days later. It could just be gone. Somebody could, let's say they email you an important invoice, or they email you, some other type of payment or something like that, and then it gets deleted, and you don't check in on it for 30 days. It could just be gone. It could legitimately just not exist after that time period. Ransomware attacks are huge. They're absolutely in the news. If you haven't seen it, you haven't been paying attention. They're targeting cloud services now as well. So if your M365 account, or if M365 in general gets hit by a ransomware attack, you don't want all of your data to just be encrypted and that's the end of it. You need some sort of backup to that data that's up there. And then I talked a little bit about that, the vocational college needing to keep certain data for years potentially. And you may also have some sort of retention regulations. You got to keep some of that data for a specific period of time. So let's go ahead and get started with M365 backup. And essentially, the hardware that you're going to use is either one of our desktop units, one of our rack units, and as the intro video said, whether you need a terabyte worth of data or a couple terabytes worth of data, or if you need over a petabyte worth of space, we've got you covered anywhere in between. And we've got flexible performance options within that range as well. So whether you need an Intel Xeon processor or a Celeron or, once again, anywhere in between, we've got some AMD Ryzen processors in some of our newer devices. So definitely we've got options for you. So the software that we're going to use is Active Backup for Microsoft 365. This is what's going to allow you to pull those local backups to your local device. And this supports OneDrive, SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, and Teams, and I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but there's no additional license or subscription fees. It comes with the hardware. So let us walk through what we're looking at here. I'm going to switch my screen to a demo. I'm going to try. 1 second here. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. All right, so I am sharing my screen now. So I'm going to jump into Active Backup from Microsoft 365. And as you can see, we go into an overview tab to start. So in the top left, you can see our protected services. So Drive, Mail, SharePoint sites, contacts, and calendar. In the top middle, we've got a backup summary. So we can see that we've got some uh-ohs. We got some completed with skipped items. So we've got basically a partial backup. We've got a green here, which is everything was successfully completed. And if there were anything that was a huge concern, we would have a red circle with an exclamation point in there. And you can click into this and figure out, okay, it'll take you to the log and it'll show you, okay, well, in this case, something was canceled. So we got a warning because of that. So just so you know, you'll find out very quickly if there are any issues. We can see our service usage here. So Drive is taking up most of this space, and we can see our user usage. So, Jon Snow is taking up most of this as well. I'll go to the task list, and you can see we've currently got a backup task running. If we wanted to create a brand new task, we would go to create a new backup task, and I would click next. And you can see that we've got some information that we need to fill in here. Don't be too frightened. All that you have to do is click into our tutorial. And then you can click on this Microsoft 365 here. And this is a step-by-step tutorial on what to do. Run a PowerShell script, and it literally goes through step-by-step. So you'll generate all of the information that you need to put in on this here. Now I'm going to cancel from here because we do already have a task that's created. I'm going to click into that and edit and show you some of the ways that you can customize once you've connected to your environment. So you've got users here. So what you can do is you can either say, I want to back up all Drive data for all users or all mail data for all users. Or you can go, okay, for Jon Snow, I want to back up all of his data all the way across. Or for Mr. Bezos, we can back up all of his data. Or of course, you can pick and choose, bits of different users. So we can also do the same thing in groups. Once again, choose entire groups or choose specific services for each of our groups. And then SharePoint sites are super simple. It's just pick the ones that you want to back up. That's the long and short of it. Now, auto discovery service is a pretty cool feature. This will allow you to, if you have new users, new groups, or new SharePoint sites that are created in your M365 environment, you will be able to simply back them up. I mean, it will just auto detect that they are new users, groups, or SharePoint sites, and it will just start backing them up. So if you go into this user tab, you would see, all of their data being backed up, or, whatever you select. So if you decide at a later point, hey, I didn't really want to back up, the contacts and calendar data for specific users, you can just go in and unselect it. And you're good to go. But this is going to protect you because you don't have to, for every single user, group, or SharePoint site, you don't have to go into that individual tab and back up those objects, let's say. And then in our policy tab, you can see that we've got the choice of either a continuous backup throughout the day. You can do just manual backups only, or you can schedule your backup like I have. And then we can have a certain number of versions that we keep. So we can either preserve all versions, or let's say, you do have some sort of retention policy where you need to keep everything for 365 days. You can go ahead and do that, and you'll be set. You'll be legally, covered with your backups. So that is pretty much it as far as backing up your M365 data. I am going to hop back into the presentation. Oh, you know what? Okay, I was sharing my screen, so you'll be able to see the presentation when I click over to it. Can someone confirm that you can see this?
Yes, you can.
All
Walk
right, perfect.
through backing up Microsoft 365 to Synology.
Perfect. Okay. So we've backed everything up to the Synology device. What about restoration? Well, you'll be happy to know you've got some great recovery options, bulk or granular restoration. I'll show you that in the demo. And then you can either restore to M365 or you can export it to your local device. And you've got self-service restoration for users. So they can go in and do this on their own, and you can choose which ones get to do it if you don't trust some of them. So don't worry about that. All right, so I am switching over to the demo again, and let's go into the recovery. So we're going to go into Active Backup for M365 Portal. And as that loads up, you'll see in the top right, we've got our roles, and this is the backup task. And so I'm going to go into role, and I'm going to go to John. I want to search through John's information, and we immediately go to his drive. And you can see down at the bottom, we've got our timeline. So we can go back in time, to 526, this backup, or we can go to 514, whatever we want to go back to. And we can see the different backups in blue here. But I want to go to mail. So I'm going to go to mail. And John was talking to me about elves. He wanted to find an email about elves. And before I search for that, I want to show you some of the options here. So you can specifically say, I want to search for emails that are from a specific person to a specific person with a specific subject. You can just put in a generic keyword. You can use a date range, or you can search for specifically documents with attachments. So I'm just going to do a generic search for elves. And here we go. And now I want you to notice here that, hang on, let me go to one of these other ones. For some reason, it's not showing the subject here. Typically, okay, here we go. One of the restores might not have had the subject at the moment, but elves is not anywhere in the subject or the body of this email, and that's because it's in this attachment. So the point here being, we absolutely search through your attachments, and we'll find keywords. So I can't tell you how many times somebody sends me no subject, no body messages with and they only put something in the attachment. So it's a nice handy little feature. And what I'll show you also is when we want to restore this, we can just check this, click restore, and then it will pop up with the destination folder that it's going to go to. Or we can just click export, and this will bring up Windows Explorer, and we can just save it to our local device. So we can also do this for multiple files. If I wanted to select several different files or folders, I could absolutely do that, and I could export or restore them all at the same time. So that is what restoration looks like. And I'm going a little bit quicker. I know I don't have too much time to play around here. So we've got our backup to from the M365 backup to our local device. We know how to restore back to M365, but we've only got that on-prem backup. We need to think about how we protect even further, right? If something happens, let's say there's a flood, let's say there's a tornado, an earthquake. I mean, it depends where you live. There's a million natural disasters that can happen. A flood could pretty much happen anywhere. You could have a fire in the building. There are things that we all have to be prepared for. So we want to have a second backup. And what you would use with Synology is snapshot replication. So this is going to both protect the data locally on your local Synology device. You can take snapshots up to every 5 minutes. You can customize the retention policy. And then with snapshot replication, you can replicate to another Synology device at another site. So basically you're taking these snapshots locally, you're copying the snapshots to the remote device, and it's flexible as far as architecture is concerned. So in this picture, you can see we've got two desktop 4-bay devices, but you could also, let's say, have a primary backup. You go to a single device, and then let's say you want to send it to different Synology devices. That's not a problem. You can absolutely do that as well. So let's talk about snapshot replication. So here we are. I'm going to click into snapshot replication. And in our overview tab, you can see that the all replication tasks have been successful. I'm going to go into snapshots here, and you can see that we've got some folders that just have scheduled protection. We've got one that is actually replicated to another device. If I wanted to, let's say, presentations here, I want presentations to be backed up, I would just click into there. I would go to settings, and then I would enable a snapshot schedule. So sure, let's do one every day. And once again, we can do this up to every 5 minutes. And yep, and we can just click always retain snapshots. I'm just going to say, hey, keep the last 1024 and OK. And then we've got our scheduled protection. Now, if we want to then replicate, all we would have to do is go into replication. Once again, I've already got a task created. I'm going to click create, go next, remote replication, and then we just need the IP address of the destination server and then the username and the password. It's really that simple. That's all you have to do to create that task. And then from there, you have some options as far as the schedule when you want the replication to run, and that's pretty much it. There's not too much else that needs to happen here. All you need to do is know, hey, we have to replicate. So you can see that it was successful. If I go into info here, you can see the source and the destination server. And then in statistics, we can see the most recent runs that we've had. So at 9 a.m. today, we had a successful snapshot. Now, if we want to recover that data, we can go into recovery, and you can see that we can recover both just the regular snapshots to the local device and the replicated ones. So in replicated here, I can click recover. And then it shows me all of the versions of that snapshot that I can actually recover. So I could go into one of these different versions. I could click browse and make sure that it has everything that I need in there. So I've got these different folders. I can browse through those folders. I can figure out, okay, does this have the file that I needed that somebody deleted at a later point in time? And you're good to go. And then all you have to do is click restore to this snapshot. And you've got your data back. All right. So sorry for kind of pushing through this. In the interest of time, I want to make sure that we do get through all of the content.
Well, that was wonderful.
Selecting hardware for your backup plan. So let me just breeze through this. And things to consider. So how much data do you have? What capacity of usable space do you need? The daily change data. So, change data does affect your snapshots to some degree. And basically, you have to keep all of the different versions. So there is some overhead, let's say, to that. Retention requirements. Once again, you might be required to keep a certain amount of data. And then future needs. 3 to 5 years is typically the amount of space I would say that you should be prepared to be ready to protect. And then we have a great article on our site. I'll let you guys, search for that. How do I select a Synology product for active backup for M365? Definitely search this up if you're curious which device you're going to need. It's going to tell you all your M365 data. And then just some example options here. A 4-bay device for less than 200 users should be okay. Maybe that's on the high end. And then up to our XS series, up to 1,000 users should probably be no issue. Of course, some of this depends on whether you are doing scheduled backups, continuous backups, et cetera. It's going to be different, performance for each of those. And then we've got rack devices as well. You've got redundant power options in a lot of our different rack devices. So those are some options as well. For anybody who's watching and needs our secret phrase, it is Billy Goat Tavern. I've got it on the screen here, and I'm open for questions. I think we've got maybe 4 or 5 minutes that we can look at some questions.
Don't be shy, folks.
Not seeing any as of yet, so I might just keep talking for a little bit until I see a question come through.
Sounds good.
So There are plenty of other things that I'd love to comment on. This was mostly about Microsoft 365, getting that data to your device and then snapshotting to an offsite location. You can also back up to the cloud using our Hyper Backup tool. So in Hyper Backup, we're using Synology C2 here, but you've got all sorts of different options for backing that data up, once again to the cloud. C2, you've got Azure S3, a whole bunch of different other choices, Dropbox if you prefer that. And then Active Backup for Business is another super cool tool with Synology. And once again, license free. You don't have to pay for this or anything like that. This includes PC, physical servers. Basically, you just install an agent on Windows devices, and then you can just back up all of that data. I mean, it's really a huge benefit to really anyone. Anybody who's got PCs or servers or virtual machines. If you've got a Hyper-V environment, if you've got a VMware environment, and you need to back up your virtual machines, this is the way to go. Once again, it's free. It just comes with the device. So I definitely recommend people checking that out. But I think we're running close on time here. Not seeing any questions as of yet. But yeah, if you do have questions, feel free to check out our I think we call it a showcase or virtual booth or whatever you want to call it. And we will definitely answer any questions that come up there. Yeah, I will go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to Synology for being a sponsor today.
Happy to be here. Thank you.